Hello, everybody. I don't expect anyone to join. It's 9:51 a.m. Central Standard Time here in Houston, and most people are out working or doing something else. But my last live stream, people mentioned that it got cut off towards the end. I saw myself as still recording. I saw people in the comments say like, "Oh, you got cut off," but I it still said I was streaming. And so I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll finish it up, and they can just see the when it gets posted, they'll see the full thing, and everything will be good." But when I saw the what got posted, I noticed that when it cut off that also. And so when I went to post it, it said the video was 1 hour and 27 minutes long. I actually spoke for another 10 minutes. And so I posted it, and it said 1 hour and 27 minutes long. And then once it posted, it said 1 hour and 17. And so that last 10 minutes of what I said got cut off entirely. I thought it was going to be preserved when I posted, but blah blah blah. I need to get to the point. I'm going to try to tell y'all what I was trying to finish saying. The last thing that I said was when Sergio joined, my boy Sergio, and I was talking about how much I love that guy. That guy, y'all. And by the way, there's a deeper message. I'm not going to just be talking about my love for these people that were on the comments thread. There's a deeper message in what I'm about to say, so please stick through this. Don't just be like, "Oh, well, I'm not Sergio. I'm tuning out of his little bromance kind of like, um, telling him he loves him." But so I'm gonna profess my love for a few people who chimed in here, and then I'm gonna tell y'all a deep message that corresponds to this. It'll all kind of come together. So so when Sergio joined, I was like, "Sergio, my boy," and then the webcam got cut off. Um, I was about to tell y'all about this amazing thing that happened with me and Sergio. So he came and visited me during the solar eclipse, which happened it was April 8th of this year, and he lives damn near all the way across the other side of the country. He flew in, and um, he slept in my house, and we had several unbelievable conversations that I've recorded, and they're going to be interviews that I release eventually. I have so many interviews that I'm sitting on, but anyway, on the actual day of the eclipse, we drove out to East Texas, and I partook in a little bit of plant medicine, and I had a unbelievably, absolutely amazing, profound experience that I recorded. Um, but anyways, one of the central themes to come out of that was this concept of dodging the coins, and this guy just shattered my mind into a billion pieces when he brought up this concept. There's this certain game called Subway something or other. I forget the name of it, Sergio. I'm sorry, but there's this video game where you're running through a subway. I'm not a gamer. I used to game a little bit, but he showed me this video game of these guys. Your character is going through like a little subway, and there's all these coins lined up that you have to go and run into and get. And it's like the whole game is mastering getting the coins. And there's a lot of amazing videos out there of people like just they're virtuosos at it. It's like, wow, this guy's getting all the coins, blah, blah, blah. And then he showed me a video of a guy dodging all of the coins, dodging them. And it was you talk about mastery of something. It was the most masterful ballet doesn't even describe. It was like this flow. I'm goosebumping. Like seriously, I'm goosebumping right now. I hope you can see that. That's how I was just like. Anyways, I'm gonna stop there because that's gonna be one of the videos that I release soon. Is that experience? Even though it's freaking 5 or 6 months ago or even longer. Probably, I don't like to do arithmetic off the top of my head. It was a long time ago. February was a long time ago. Was it 8 months? I don't know. Whatever. I'm gonna release that video soon, and it's gonna have that explanation, and then we're gonna talk about our deep dive we had a conversation the day after about that, and we dove into the concept even deeper. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So I'm not going to give too much away there, but Sergio, got a place in my heart for you, but big, big time. Another person I saw in that thread was a guy named Larry Bill Gaidashak. Man, y'all, you have no idea what me and that guy have been through in our lives. Known for a long time, and we reconnected recently after a hiatus of 20 plus years, and we just picked right back up where we started or where we left off. And that dude, I mean, if someone was like, Andrew, you have to set your house on fire right now, everything you own, and then get on hitchhike to Alaska and live in an igloo for the next 30 years of your life, uh, uh, and you have to do this to help your friend Bill. I would do that right now. Like, just, nope, no ifs, ands, or buts. Lighting the house on fire and going. Um, I had an experience with him, an experience that was unbelievably earth shattering. Uh, Ancient Gear, you were uh, hinting, or I told you about this experience, and this is the guy that I experienced the whole when God. So me and this guy have a mutual friend who met a tragic demise. I'll just put it to you that way. And this guy lived a very intense life, a troubling life. He was a disturbed and troubled person, unbelievably sweet and awesome person, but has gone through some terrible things, and um, there was some deep scarring there. And uh, the story of what happened on my experience with my friend, who I just was talking about, that we reconnected after so many years. He had a picture of that friend who met his tragic demise in his little upstairs little room or whatever, and this picture is beautifully horrifying. Is all I can tell you. That it's a long story, but when I saw this tragic human being who had met a tragic demise and lived a tragic life, a beautiful but tragic life, God formed Himself around the picture of this amazingly beautifully grotesque but beautiful and troubling picture. It's a long story about the picture. The picture got burned in a fire, and so it's a picture of my friend, but the picture it looks as if someone beat someone. And this isn't a picture like, the picture was of my friend being a normal person. Like, I think he had his arm around his girlfriend or something like that. But because it got scorched in this fire, it was unrecognizable in terms of, like, you really had to squint your eyes and kind of look like this to kind of make out the form of a human face. And once you did that, you could make it out. And you're like, oh, I see it. Yeah. But when you get up close, y'all, because it got charred and burned in a fire a little bit, it looks like someone took a human face and beat it with a baseball bat and sledgehammer so much that it is unrecognizable hamburger meat, and then lit it on fire. And it was emblematic and demonstrative and illustrative in a poetic way about that man's life. And God was around that image. And I asked God, I was like, hey, what's the deal here? Is because again, he met a tragic demise, and in the Christian faith, if your demise, well, I'm not going to get into it. There's these implications of, like, someone who dies like that, what happens to them. Um, it was unbelievable what God said. It was unbelievable. I'm not going to tell you what He said. I'm going to save that for another episode. But he gave me an answer that was so perfect. And there was only 4 words. Hold on. No, sorry, there were 7 words. Usually God gives me answers in 4 words, but this time it was only 7. and I kept trying to. There was more. There was more. I was wanting him to give me more, and I kept asking, "Well, can you elaborate?" And he just kept repeating those 7 words. And the more he kept repeating it, the more it made very clear. It's like, oh, he said everything that needed to be said. And yeah, is all I can tell you. It's bone chillingly beautiful and amazing, and it's like get on your hands and knees and worship kind of thing. So just a little shout out to Bill there. Um, we're still going to make that little documentary about our friend. But I wanted to close. I wanted to close the well, so that was a chunk. That was a part of the chunk that was removed from the end of that live stream that got cut off. I thought I had recorded all this, but the last thing that I was really trying to get through, and if it gets cut off this time, y'all, it's because of some kind of supernatural force trying to screw with us, because something probably doesn't want you to hear this message that I'm about to deliver to you. And when I say to you, I mean to you. I'm not talking anymore to, what was that on my finger? See that? What was that? That was weird. I thought it looked like there was something on my finger. Anyway, I'm talking to you. I'm not only talking to my friend Bill or my friend Sergio here or my friend Ancient Gear. I'm talking to you. And y'all, I have had a rough go at this trying to cure my addiction and depression kind of stuff. I don't think I've had a rougher go than most, but that's all relative, right? And so in my own little universe, I feel like I've had a really rough go at trying to fix myself, right? And I've slipped up a lot. And every time I think I have a new kind of take or new slant on curing myself, it's like then the rug gets pulled out from under me, and I realize, no, I'm still not cured. What has all this God stuff meant if I'm not cured? What has all this ayahuasca stuff meant if I'm not cured? People talk about, oh, ayahuasca cured me, blah, blah, blah. Well, God bless you. I hope it really did, because I can tell you that it didn't for me. It slammed me really hard it showed me what the path was when I first took it. And then it slammed me incredibly hard on the path the next few times that I took it. And other plant medicines as well. It'll show you the path, and it will slam you incredibly hard down on the path. But being shown the path and being slammed down on the path is not the path. The path, the real path, is staying on the path. And as a human being, we are going to fall off that path with just about every friggin' step we take. Our very nature is steering us off that path. It's like it's every freaking cell in your body wants you to be off of that path, and it is pulling and guiding you away. It's the hardest thing in the world to be a human being. In the world, it's the hardest thing that we know of in the universe, to be a human being. This guy friggin' yelled at the end of his life, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" This guy knew how friggin' hard it is to be a human being. He was a human being. This is the only way this all makes sense and works from a even just a narrative perspective, from an effective story perspective. The only way that Jesus works and is as amazing as I know him to be is if he was also a man that had to overcome things. If he was just born into royalty and overcame them because he was God, golf clap. Good job, buddy. Good job. That's not the story. He overcame that stuff because he had to overcome it, because he was a human being and God. But he was 100% of both. Anyway, let me bring this back to the humanness, y'all, of recovery is critically important. You're going to slip up. You're going to screw up. You cannot beat yourself up about it. even if you're doing really terrible stuff, y'all, the cycle of this stuff starts with self-hatred. Um, when I was going through some of the worst stuff recently of beating myself up because I keep falling back into that old pattern, and I'm not cured, and I'm upset that I'm not cured, and that things happen in my life, and I get depressed and upset, and then I go and partake in the very thing that I've been striving to fix myself of, to get out of my life. I go partake in that again, and it makes me feel worse. And then I self medicate by doing it again, and it makes me feel worse. And then you just keep going down and down. I was listening to a video with the serial killer Ed Kemper. Very fast. He fascinates the hell out of me because he's so incredibly articulate, very very incredibly smart, has a very high IQ, and can articulate his psychosis, his craziness. He articulates it quite well, and you can see into the mind of a madman serial killer, mutilator, and post mortem. Does all the nasty stuff, y'all. What is the most bone chilling thing about that is that he's also very relatable. And a lot of people, when they see these interviews with Ed Kemper, they're in the comments, they'll say, "My God, I could listen to this guy talk forever. He's such a pleasant. He seems like a very pleasant person, and I can talk." Y'all, it's bone chilling, and especially when it's bone chilling. Not only the stuff he did, it's bone chilling that you can sit there and listen to him talk and be like, "Wow, I would just love to sit there and talk to this guy and listen to him talk. He seems like a very pleasant guy." But the most bone chilling aspect of this is the fact that you can relate personally. Like, again, I mentioned in the last last live stream that I did, like with the wrong carrots and sticks in your life, born into a certain situation where you're being abused, where you come from a long lineage of abuse, um, and perhaps there is some kind of mental scarring that has been ingrained into your DNA from terrible traumas that have happened years and years and maybe even hundreds of years before. um Given what I'm saying is, given the right placement or the wrong placement and the wrong carrots and sticks in your life, you could find yourself being Ed Kemper, doing all those terrible nasty things that he did. Gruesomely, horrendously nasty, terrifying, terrible things that he did. You could easily find yourself there. um and by the way, this guy knows that, and that is why he did. That's one of the biggest reasons why he did what he did there. Um, but what I'm ultimately getting at here is he said himself in one of his interviews. He said, "Hey, the last killing that he was going to do and didn't do, the last kill. Well, he actually killed his mom before he turned himself in, but he had this. His thing was picking up hitchhikers and killing them. In girls that were hitchhiking, he would pick them up and do terrible things." Um, and by the way, Ed Kemper is still in prison. Ancient Gear. He hasn't died yet. He's still in prison. Um, but he's like in his 90s or something though, or late 80s or something. But anyway, he picks up these two hitchhikers, and he had been having these conflicts in his head of like, am I crazy? Am I not crazy? Should I turn myself in to make this stop, etc. And so he picks up these hitchhikers, and he said it was a perfect situation. Two young girls. He was driving through a town where he didn't live there, so he's just driving through. No one knows him. It was a perfect. There was no one on the road. These two girls are there. They get into his car without even questioning. It's a perfect situation. And he says he was like, everything was perfect for me to do the worst. And he's like, I didn't do it. And the interviewer asked him, well, why didn't you do it? And he goes, well, my mentality was not right. I wasn't at the time. I wasn't angry, depressed, blah blah blah, the trigger that would make me want to self medicate to where to do this. And I'm there in my car listening to this interview, thinking to myself, wow, I'm beating myself up all the time because I keep stumbling and going back. Don't get me wrong, y'all. I am far better off than I was back in the day with my particular uh, thing that I'm trying to rid myself of and rise above. Way better than I was. But again, I will slip up and then I beat myself up um, and so it starts with feeling bad. It starts with depression. It starts exactly with what friggin' Ed Kemper himself said, is that I wasn't in the right mindset. I wasn't depressed and I wasn't angry, so therefore I didn't kill. If you break that cycle, y'all, of depression, that is the start of setting yourself free. And I'm going to close with two things. Number one, direct communication with Jesus himself that I had. And you can say, you can shoot holes in this all day long. Is Andrew really talking to Jesus or not? Well, you better believe that I believe that I am. Okay. Um, you better believe that. um, Jesus had a conversation with me on Friday the 13th of this past, you know, I think it happened in September. It was September 13th, Friday the 13th. Guess what? Remember the whole 13, 13, 13 thing? That video where the number 13 kept popping up in my life, and then it pointed to 1 Corinthians 13, which is exactly, so the whole book of First Corinthians is 13. Sorry, no. Yeah. It's 13 verses long or whatever. Let me anyway, it's like First Corinthians 13 is 13 verses long, and it's all about this cosmic understanding of love. And when I talk about the tip of the iceberg, the flawed version of love that we encounter and interact with, we it's very paradoxical and we can't understand. We can't make sense of it, right? Oh, six, yeah, it's 6:13, right? Yeah, yep. It was 6:13 a second ago when I first started talking. Yeah, sorry, 10:13 here in Houston when I started talking about 13. Um, but anyways, I don't need to rehash everything about First Corinthians 13. It's Go read it and imagine that it's me telling you that. Go read First Corinthians 13 and imagine that someone had just had a psychedelic experience and got to see the remaining 99% of that iceberg of cosmic love. Like, we see that much, and this much is our little physical existence. That's the tip of our iceberg that we encounter. And then there's the rest of the iceberg that is cosmically significantly just amazing. Imagine someone had just done psychedelics or just done transcendental meditation or just fasted long enough or just did whatever to experience that cosmic love, and then go read that and get ready for your mind to be blown. So I kept getting these 13, 13, 13s, and to the extreme where, again, I'm going to rehash this story. Um, a friend of mine who's atheist, when we were filming him for a film that we were doing, a little short film, a little funny, silly short film. Me and this guy argued about God a couple years ago. Had a yelling argument. Like, this guy is vehemently atheist. We asked him to ad lib a line. That morning when I woke up, Bible app of the day, Bible app verse of the day was something from First Corinthians. Something from First Corinthians 13, and I just kept getting these synchronicities, and I am not joking, freaking around when I say this. When I woke up that morning and we got the cameras rolling and we put the camera in his face, and we started rolling. We did this whole scene. It took like 2 hours to film or whatever. And at the end of the scene, when we had gotten everything we got, I always like to tell actors, hey, on this one, just ad lib, like just make stuff up, and we'll see if something is funnier, right? So he starts ad-libbing, and the very first thing he says is like, "Oh, my brother played a video. My brother played a character who was like a grown man that played video games all the time, and this dude was calling him out on it. And he's like, "Oh, you play video games? Oh, great." He's like, "I remember playing video games when I was a child." And he's like, "But then he said this was the ad libbed part. He's like, but then I became a man, and I put away those childish things, and blah blah blah," and said the rest of the verse from 1 Corinthians 13. And I was just sitting there filming this, like what? Anyways, what I'm getting at here, all these 13, 13, 13s. And then every time I see a 13, it's like something about love is accompanied with that. And here I am on September the 13th filming a horror movie that's based off of Friday the 13th, like Jason Voorhees. I'm doing this quite amazing. It's kind of silly. I don't like comic book stuff, and I'm not a big slasher horror movie kind of guy. But these awesome dudes have roped me in to film this horror movie, and of all things, y'all. It's the premise is so hilarious. It's Jason Voorhees versus Frank Castle, the Punisher. And so I went out to, of all places, Palestine, Texas, to film a critical scene in this Friday the 13th movie on Friday the 13th. By the way, my parents, their anniversary of their first date, and they still celebrate this to this day, even after their divorce, was on Friday the 13th. I didn't find that out until later when I told my mom about this story. But on Friday the 13th, filming a movie about Friday the 13th. And then after the movie's over, they wanted me to watch several of the Jason Friday the 13th movies. And I partook in a little bit of plant medicine in the form of gummies. And I proceeded to have an unbelievable conversation with the man. And what he said, y'all, to me, it's going to tear me up. He said, "Andrew, there is nothing that you can do that will stop me from loving you, and infinitely so. Nothing." And I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away. And he proceeded to say, "Andrew, you live in a backwards world. Everything you think is one way really is the other way." And when he said "you," he was inferring all of us, by the way. We all live in a backwards world. He said, how do I express this? It's hard for me to dive back into that story. Is he basically said something like, take the worst things that you've done to someone in your life, okay? The fact that we feel trepidatious about confession, that we're going to experience backlash and retribution and wrath, and that's why we don't confess. He says that's not what he stood for. That's not what he was all about, and that's not what love is. That's not what forgiveness is. And we live in a world where we can't do that. It's like we have to keep the things that we've done secret, because we are going to experience wrath and backlash if we confess. And he said that's not what he stood for. That's not what this is all about. We live in a backwards world. Everyone should be able to tell everybody everything that they've done, and everything be okay. And just like he said, there's nothing that you can do that will stop me from loving you, and loving you infinitely so. Nothing. And he said, perhaps if we all kind of lived like that, perhaps the negativity of that fear and that trepidation would take care of it. The fear and trepidation of confessing what you've done. If we short circuited that, And we were like, it doesn't matter what you've done. I will love you infinitely no matter what. Perhaps that short circuits the whole system to where we stop doing bad things to each other in the first place. And there was so much more involved on that experience. But I want anyone listening who may be going through terrible addiction, that they do bad things that makes them feel worse. This man says there's nothing that you can do that will stop him from loving you and loving you infinitely so. And then I'm going to stop on this last experience that I had a couple days ago, a few days ago. I was I again took part in some plant medication, and not a lot, just a little bit, just enough to see things a little bit. And I did my staring meditation where I do this thing where I stare at a certain spot in the room and stay and just stare and breathing in and such. And then eventually your rods and cones in your eyes start to get so used to, like, it gets burned into your image, into your eyes, and like the image, and then that causes the room to start to melt away. And then when you when that happens, there's a bifurcation in a way that you can kind of almost, it's almost as if you can emerge through that vision into another plane. And when coupled with plant medicine, it's a very powerful experience. And this time when I did that, I saw this row of entities, and they all looked very Hindu-like. It's hard to explain. They had those little beautiful eyes and this kind of like bubble, like fractal bubble kind of like thing around them. Um, and they looked very Hindu-like. And like I always do when I encounter critters, is what I call them. I did my Jesus Christ test. I was like, hey guys, y'all look pleasant enough, but just gonna throw this out there. Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. And they were like, they waved their hands like this, almost as if to say, hey, we come in peace. And I heard one of them say, yeah, Jesus is part of this. I was like, okay, that put me at ease. And they were like, hey, let us come in, like bring us in. You know how to do this with deeper concentration and breath. But they also said, do that thing that you do. And I do this thing whenever I'm doing astral projection and stuff, where I can sink into myself, and it's akin to like relaxing a spiritual muscle. I know that sounds weird. I know I sound like a crazy person, but it's like I'm doing it right now. It's like you fall into yourself, and you feel like this kind of energy that falls in. Um, when I did that, these things, every time I did that, they got closer and closer, and then eventually they just kind of melded into my brain. And they told me to repeat this mantra. They said, repeat after me. And I want everyone to listen to this, because anyone going through this stuff, it's critical that you don't beat yourself up. That's step number one, y'all. Step number one in loving thy neighbor and loving your enemy. Step number one is loving yourself. And the depths to which you can love yourself will equal the depths to which that you can love your enemy and love your neighbor, which is the whole point of all this. But it starts with you. Anyway, remember this mantra, y'all. It's very simple and very beautiful. These things that were in my brain that seemed to be in unison with Jesus, they said, hey, look, Andrew, repeat after me. I said, okay. And what they said was, I am who I am. God loves me for who I am. And how could he not? I'm going to say that again. I am who I am. God loves me for who I am. And how could he not? And I didn't say it twice. I only said it once with them. I repeated right after what they said. And when I was done, this whole interaction with these entities lasted only like 2 minutes. And when they finally got into my brain and had me repeat that mantra, it was like 20 seconds. And when I was done repeating that mantra, they peaced out. They said, hey, that's all we have for you. Good job. And we're going to check in with you in a month. And they left. It was like a little mini therapy session. And guess what? I feel like $1,000,000. And guess what? I have still slipped up a little bit. And guess what? I'm not going to let that get the best of me. because I know my progression and my trajectory is getting just better and better. And don't beat yourself up. It starts with you. You are who you are. God loves you for who you are, and how could He not? I'm gonna read some of the comments now. Sergio told me to check you out, so here I am. Awesome. Sergio is a great man. I love this guy. Too funny. I've used those same words since I was a little kid. But I'm definitely no Jesus. I mean, dude, John, we are Jesus, man. I don't know if you were just being cheeky and or whatever there, but um, this guy who I used to think was a big giant joke, I thought he was the biggest fairy tale nonsensical, joke. You better believe that I believe he's real now. This guy looked me in the face several times and told me that he is literal life itself. He is the unknowable essence. Well, it's knowable because we are life. So it's very knowable. It's the most familiar thing to us. Yet it's the least. Yet we cannot define it. Which is so paradoxically beautiful and poetic. But the guy looked me in the face and said, he is literal life itself. And if that's the case, and there's so many stories here that I could tell you about this. He is we, he is you, he is me, he is we. But that of course means that he is your neighbor and he is your enemy. And by the way, if we are him and he is we, that means that we are he. So we are Jesus. You are Jesus. I am Jesus. Everyone you meet is Jesus. And this is specific, but there's a source to all of that too. People get so hung up on Jesus, and perhaps they should, because that's our link to all of this. That's the closest thing that we can point at to be like, okay, that's like the path to this or whatever. I know there's other people, other prophets or whatever, but for me, it's like Jesus is my guy. That's who came and embodied himself and communicated this stuff to me. You're Jesus, dude. Anyway, let's keep going down the list here. We cannot be sure about anything Jesus told you if we cannot be sure about the existence of hell and about what it is in the first place. What if inside his love is a way for people to go beyond a point? I still don't know about love, man, or love. I still don't know about hell. What I was told is just that hell is separation from God, and you have the choice to separate or not, and He will always honor free will. And theoretically, if there's separation from God, the those who separate will be, they'll have no other choice but to create their own bastardized version of what they imagine paradise to be. And I don't want to see what paradise ruled by the innate, you know, trappings of survival would produce. Of no return with the perceived reality being displaced by actual reality, and we can be sure about hell. We're capable of creating both heaven and hell right here on this plane of existence. Absolutely, John. We can create paradise on earth right now if we love our neighbor like we love ourselves, and if we love our enemy. Everything takes care of itself. There's no need for an economy in that kind of environment. In a world of giving, there is no taking. And then if you fall to the other side of that, hate your neighbor like you hate yourself and hate your enemy, then we fall again into the trappings of survival, and that is hell. Did you hear a loud? Ancient Gear. Before you astral project, do you hear a loud buzzing sound inside of your head? Absolutely, I do. Just about every time. Sometimes it's a like high pitched frequency and more of a vibration. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait. Do I have to join a meeting right now? Oh, no. Sorry. I thought I had a meeting, but it's in an hour. But I do need to get going. But yes, I just about every astral projection experience I have is a frequency of some sort, like a buzzing, and then that buzzing builds to and then when I've encountered these beings on um, plant medicine and such, there's a frequency assigned to them too. It's really strange. And then this a couple times ago, I had some beings come in and kind of like do work on me, and it had everything to do with frequency. There was like all these frequencies, like, and they were trying to like fine tune and hone those frequencies. Everything seems to be about frequencies. Um, the problem is what happens after death, and if should we find ourselves, there will be to create health. If everyone is Jesus, then none is at. Then if everyone is Jesus, then none is. Then no, man, I would disagree with that. Um, if everyone is Jesus, then no one is. No, 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 man. Life itself, man. Um, and you know the consciousness exists in lumps that are also spread out through the cosmos. And so like the whole cosmos is consciousness, and then there's these lumps of consciousness that we call people and stuff, and then Jesus was the lumpiest of those lumps, but we all have the lump. And he was the embodiment, the purest lump. And he's saying that we all have that lump and whatnot. Sergio was definitely right. We need to have a lengthy talk sometime. And yeah, we're all we. Yep. Extensions of the reality in a perspective that can experience itself. Absolutely. Yeah. To me, we are God's nervous system. He's operating a reinvestment game where he's strengthening and bolstering love. Like love needs to be challenged to grow, otherwise it becomes stagnant. So he creates the imperfection in existence to challenge that stagnation, and then once we get updates to that, it feeds back and it gets fed back into us, and it keeps this circle going, and love and love and love keeps building. He's in my head. Yep. So I got to get going now, y'all. I got a really important job interview. I've already got the job, but I'm meeting my boss for the first time. It's hilarious. If they could only imagine what I just got done talking about, they would be like, "You're not gonna be hired now." Anyways, I love you all. I hope what I said helped a little bit. If you took anything else from this, specifically you, Ancient Gear, because I know you're struggling with this a lot, man. Don't operate from a place of sadness and depression. I know it's hard because I'm a naturally prone person to depression and sadness. If you can find a way to love yourself, just repeat that mantra to yourself. I think it's the Apostle Paul who talks about we should be in constant, never ceasing prayer, right? You're from Eastern Orthodox religion. You're familiar with the Jesus prayer. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I don't like that. I don't like that. How about, hey, Jesus Christ, I love you. How about Jesus Christ, let me be a fountain of your love. Repeat that over and over. But because that's what they say in the Eastern Orthodox thing, is like their answer to constant, never ceasing prayer is the Jesus prayer. Constantly say it in your head. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I don't like that. It has a negative slant. This guy has already taken care of sin. So what I say is this new mantra, and man, say it to yourself nonstop in your head all freaking day long, man. And then when you're going to sleep, say it so that you're thinking it when you go to sleep. I am who I am. God loves me for who I am. And how could he not? Say it over and over and over and over. I love you all. I got to go get ready for this job interview thing. I am who I am. God loves me for who I am. How could he not? Thank you.